This is a big story. Department of War is opening an investigation into Mark Kelly. You may have seen this cross just within the last couple of hours. They have issued an official statement. This follows the heels of Donald Trump really scorching Mark Kelly and others because of some of the recent videos that they've put out, along with some of the recent interviews that they have done. The Department of War has received serious allegations of misconduct against Captain Mark Kelly in accordance with the Uniform Code of Military Justice 10 U.S.C. 688 and other applicable regulations. A thorough review of these allegations has been initiated to determine further actions, which may include recall to active duty for court-martialing proceedings or administrative measures. This matter will be handled in compliance with military law, ensuring due process and impartiality. Further official comments will be limited to preserve the integrity of the proceedings. The Department of War reminds all individuals that military retirees remain subject to the UCMJ for applicable offenses, and federal laws such as 18 U.S.C. 2387 prohibit actions intended to interfere with the loyalty, with the morale, or good order and discipline of our armed forces. Any violations will be addressed through appropriate legal actions. And the reason for this, guys, is I don't know what to tell you on the Dems. Like, they've so far lost it that they're now out there trying to tell military members you don't have to obey anything. It's like you don't have a military that functions, right? Like, if you don't have a chain of command, where, you know, your boss, right, the officer tells the enlisted to do something, like, and the enlisted person says, well, I'm not going to do it. Then you get total anarchy, total mutiny. And I just don't understand, like, what American would actually be trying to encourage that. But that's exactly what we saw as they released this little social media stunt.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow.
I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day
to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military,
but that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Like us. You all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
And right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard,
and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army,
or Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever.
Okay, so they're going on about how you don't have to follow illegal orders. So who's to determine if it's illegal? I mean, I think that's a fair question, right? And by the way, is there anything illegal that's already happened? Senator Slotkin was asked this question on ABC News over the weekend. ABC is back in action. And the answer was, well, no, nothing illegal has happened, to which I would just say, then why the heck did you release the stinking video, okay? What are you trying to do, lady?
So let's talk right now. Do you believe President Trump has issued any illegal orders?
To my knowledge, I am not aware of things that are illegal, but certainly.
Okay, so what was the whole video that we just sat through? To my knowledge, I am not aware of anything that is illegal, although then she goes on to say, I'm not so sure about Venezuela, I'm not so sure about, all those boats off the Caribbean, etc. But if you're not so sure, if you, the lady that's telling all of the enlisted people not to actually follow orders, if you don't know if it's legal or not, then why the heck did you put the stupid video out?
Certainly, there are some legal gymnastics that are going on with these Caribbean strikes and everything related to Venezuela.
I mean, the idiocy is actually rather remarkable, truly remarkable. At least Amy Klobuchar, who's another not very bright individual. Gosh, when you think of how close we came to some of these people being president. She was actually running for president of the United States. So she was on NBC over the weekend. And, at least she's sticking to her story, right? When they pushed her and they said, well, what exactly is illegal? She kind of had a reason, although it doesn't work because the courts have actually ruled that this is legal. But here's Amy Klobuchar trying to stir the pot.
I wonder, do you know what the specific illegal acts are that your Democratic colleagues were referring to there?
Well, it's very clear in this code for the military that you cannot follow unlawful orders. And, that would be, I'll just use an example. Some of the judges have now found in certain cities that it is not legal to send in the National Guard. And those National Guard members have come home. Some of them are still there. But if their commander were to tell them, hey, go out on the streets and do this and that, that's not following the order that is in law. So I just use that example. I'm sure my colleagues would have other.
Just to be clear, the courts have already ruled that he could actually bring the National Guard into a lot of these places, including out in California, where Gavin's flipping out. Honestly, I'm like, what is the point here? You guys want chaos? I see some of you guys saying, oh, well, that lady, cloaking, she's former CIA, there's some kind of psych op. I'll tell you what it is. It's a political op, okay? This is a political op. It's a terrible thing to do. It's wrong. 250 years we've made it, and now they're pulling this kind of crapola. That's what this is, total crapola. It's like they want the chaos. I want to go to this woman who just destroyed Wolf Blitzer on live television because he's like, well, what's wrong with that, right? And she explains it better than I'm explaining it. But the point is, you got a military, and the military actually has to follow orders. If nobody's following orders, you think about how slippery a slope that is. Here, she explains.
I just want to be precise, Congresswoman. Should members of the U.S. military or the intelligence community, for that matter, obey what are clearly illegal orders if in their mind what they're being told to do is something illegal? Should they still go ahead and follow those rules?
You're asking an enlisted person for their opinion on what they think is legal or illegal. That's a pretty slippery slope. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes.
So that's an interpretation. And what the president has done is not illegal, right? So I would say follow the chain of command. Follow your commander in chief. That's the oath that you took. Because if you leave everything up to interpretation, you could interpret things one way. I could interpret things another way. And that is a very dangerous situation to put this nation in.
Yeah. Like, just saying, woofy, I mean, I guess he has to ask the question, but it should be kind of obvious. It really should be. Again, I want to go over to Ari Fleischer, who had a good couple of things to say on this as well. It's just amazing to me that they're pulling this.
When I saw that video last week, my instant reaction was all the things I've seen in all my time in Washington, we've hit a new low.
Yep.
I don't care how much you oppose Donald Trump. You do not interfere in the military chain of command. And people who are in the military, someone who was in the CIA, they, of all people, should know that. So whatever you oppose, you have a higher duty to the Constitution and to the military chain of command. And that should be obeyed. It must be obeyed when you're in uniform, and it should be obeyed when you're out of uniform and retired. This was one of the lowest, most dangerous, worst things I've ever seen because they're trying to interfere with the chain of command.
So if those answers weren't enough to draw your reaction, this is Alyssa Slotkin using Nuremberg and a few good men, Ari, as examples of illegal orders. This is ABC This Week. Listen.
If you're going back to Nuremberg, right, that, well, they told me to do it, that's why I murdered people, is not an excuse. If you look at popular culture, there's you watch, a few good men. We have plenty of examples since World War II in Vietnam where people were told to follow illegal orders and they did it and they were prosecuted for it.
Your reaction, Ari?
This is horrible. Members of Congress do not have a say in this. The military has a say. This would be the equivalent if Republicans had said about Joe Biden ordering the withdrawal from Afghanistan, telling the military, don't obey it, stay in Afghanistan. That's an illegal command. It would have been just as terrible, and you shouldn't do that as a member of Congress. It is sacred because when you put people in harm's way, that chain of command is what protects them. You cannot have a lawless situation where anybody with a strong opinion can enter the chain of command and then it becomes a debate. It's an order. And so if it's an illegal order that is already on the books, people in the military are trained, they know about it, but for members of Congress to pipe in from afar, that's what made this so terrible and such an infringement.
It's unbelievable. I mean,
what
I
keeps
just keep
the people
looking
in
at
the
it.
military safe.
I'm looking at it in just stunned and horrified and disgusted. And one of the women in there, Maggie Gulander, she's from New Hampshire, Congresswoman, Democrat. She's actually married to Jake Sullivan. Remember, Jake was the one who thought he had solved all the problems in the Middle East. And then Afghanistan, that all went down really badly. And then, of course, the horror that we saw in Israel. I mean, he had said like something to the Atlantic like 2 days before, we solved it all. It's her husband that was Biden's national security advisor. So if you don't think that there's a political undertone and current to all of this, hello, I got news for you. And we'll go back to what Kara was trying to tell Scott. Oh, don't worry about it. It's all just politics. This is Kara Swisher. She is a tech reporter. And she wants to excuse everything like the 51X spooks and spies that demanded everybody just recognize, Hunter Biden's laptop was nothing but misinformation. You see what they're doing here? Again, another psych op situation. Donald Trump hasn't murdered anyone. I mean, the National Guard going into D.C. to help clean up the streets so that people don't get mugged at night. I mean, that's kind of what I would consider a win, right? Even the D.C. mayor, who's a Democrat, welcomed that because they actually cleaned up the streets. But here, they just think it's politics. Okay, we can play this game like it's nothing. Wrong.
The story was true. There wasn't really any dispute of that, other than from these 50 people who come from government, who are in and out of government when Democrats are in power.
That's politics to me, Scott. I mean, you're not naive. They were making their case, just like you would say Trump just did with whatever issue he has.
Well, I don't agree that it is just a simple matter of making your case. When you use your government title and you use your intelligence bona fides and you use all your credentials to flat out lie to the American people, they didn't know that. That was a political argument, but they were saying this is Russian disinformation. What you're reading is directly out of the Kremlin.
It was an aggressive thing to say, like a seriously aggressive thing to say, just like it was really aggressive to come up with the dossier and the Russia hoax, the original one that was opposition research bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton. I mean, enough is enough, people, for goodness sakes. Rick Grinnell speaking with my friend Maria Bartiromo this morning on this very issue. Listen in.
Rick, I want to get your take about what has taken place since you were DNI. You're the former DNI. Also, you are presidential envoy for special missions of the United Nations. This last 10 years and this investigation ongoing on whether or not it is a conspiracy, beginning with Russia collusion, where one political campaign, Hillary Clinton, came up with a lie about her political enemy and it goes viral across the world, to the Hunter Biden laptop, to impeachments, and then 90 plus indictments against President Trump, the Mar-a-Lago raid. What do you want to say about what we have just experienced for 10 years of attacks against this president?
Well, it's clear to me that the bureaucracy led by the Democrats and the press are going to attack President Trump every time he tries to reform Washington. They don't want to reform. They like the system the way it is. And so when you look at the very beginning, when President Trump arrived in 2017, really beginning in 2016 with the election, the intelligence community and others had so many bad apples that they went after President Trump and created the Russian collusion hoax and all of these other things. This video that these Democrat elected officials are doing now is a call to arms to try to get the last remaining few people within the intelligence community, within the bureaucracy, to stand up and fight. I think it is an outrageous video. We should call it out constantly. What they're trying to do is mount an insurrection from within. Yeah. And President Trump is right to be extremely angry. And I hope that John Radcliffe and Tulsi Gabbard understand that they've got to dig deep now to figure out how do we stop any of these leaks that are clearly going to be coming.
Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. It's like they want some kind of civil war. I'm stunned. I'm disgusted. And, you know, at a time like this, when we have so much to celebrate, 250 years of being the world's greatest nation, really and truly on the planet, they are just going so low, so low. This is how they're defending themselves, just so you're aware.
If they are going there where they did, do you think they should have been more explicit about the contours of what they think is actually illegal?
I think the burden of proof on respecting the integrity of the military does not lie on these patriots and veterans who are serving in Congress. It lies on the President of the United States, who has entertained the idea of using the military to aid and abet the insurrection that he launched in 2020, who has called American cities training grounds for the United States military, who has ordered strikes in the Caribbean that have so rattled our own allies that they have decided to not share intelligence to advance those strikes because they don't believe that they are justified or legal. This president is the one who has to answer to the American public on his violations of posse comitatus, which means that he can't use the military for law enforcement purposes, as he's tried to do in Los Angeles and Chicago and elsewhere. And he has to answer to the American public for why he wants to wage a ground war in Venezuela when the American public has been crystal clear that they are done with military adventurism overseas.
Okay. I'm just looking at some of your comments as we were playing that soundbite. And one of you guys pointed out something, which is a good point, that there were two astronauts that were stranded in space. Remember that? Mark Kelly, Don Haven says, Mark Kelly did nothing, right? You had two astronauts that were held effectively as political prisoners in space because of Biden. I mean, what a disgrace that was. I agree. Boy, this is a really just a low, low, low moment. And I don't think it's going to get a lot of oxygen. I certainly hope it doesn't, because what they're trying to do, and don't forget, the former head of the NSC's wife, Maggie, is one of them in there. Plus Mark Kelly, you get some prominent people, right? They don't even know whether anything's illegal or not. As we heard from Slokin, she admitted as much, so they don't know what they're doing, and yet they're seeding the environment with this for a very deliberate reason, right? And that is to make sure that no one on the inside, the intel community, is on Donald Trump's side. And they also want to make sure that if needed, the military is on their side. And I just got to say, like, it's getting scary, guys. It's really getting scary.